Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron Patrick and Johann Goree. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Good morning, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant, episode number 28. The date is the 1st of May, 2023, and we're here, as always, on the 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning for your listening pleasure. And with me, as always, is Johann Goree, my co-host, with the slightly excited weekend, wasn't it, with Formula One being back? How was your weekend going?
I've had all the excitement this weekend. Formula One's back. I'm a bit confused by the new setup of qualifying, sprint. That's not got any impact on the race. Anyway, that was a topic of conversation most weekend in the house. But yes, so we've had qualifying, we've had F1 back, and there's 5 races in 6 weeks after 4 weeks of nothing. I mean, it's a bit of an overdose, but it's fine. We'll handle the excitement. And then also we launched our huge update for Client Engager, which we will come on to later, I'm sure. But that led to lots of questions and Q&A answering on the Facebook group we've got for our community. But it also led to the realization that I now need to re-record every single video I've ever done for Client Engager because it's completely and utterly different as a product. But hey, there's worse things to have to worry about. You could have had a product that's not moved in, 12 months or so. So we'll take the wins where we can get them.
We certainly should. And to be fair, from all the conversation I've seen going on in your group, it all seems to be positive as well. It seems like everyone's really excited for it. So congrats. Good launch.
Yeah. I mean, there was proper FOMO going on Friday night because the PTR developer released it a bit earlier than I was expecting him to. So it was kind of live by about 9:30. And then everyone was trying to log in to find it and see it. And a few people were a bit confused and proper FOMO going on. It was fantastic. But yeah, we've even triggered people migrating their email domains from Gmail to Microsoft because that's who we've connected to first, which is interesting.
That's a win, isn't it? That's a win. And what I would say as well, no downtime as well by the looks of it. Big update, no downtime. That's
nope.
That's good. Brilliant. Oh, and we've got people in the chat already. Kirsty, hello. Thank you for joining us today. Paul, we may have some update from what you talked about last week, so keep an eye out for that one. And Merlin's there as well. Good morning to you. Hope you're having a good day. And Dread Tool B as well, but I don't think that's an actual real account on a Monday morning, is it? But yeah, great to have you all in with us today live. Remember, if you are in live, don't forget to use that comments box to ask us some questions, or if you are listening back live or not live or back on one of our podcasting services of your choice, then please do use the link in the questions or in the comment section to be able to ask us a question. Yeah, and we got a busy week happened, didn't we? Basically, what happened in our world was we stopped recording this time last week. And as soon as we stopped recording, a load of news happened in the industry, doesn't it? So Let's make sure that we cover that news first and foremost. And I think the most prominent one was that Coconut, which is one of the services we've talked about quite a few times on the show, has been acquired. So Coconut has been bought by Simply Tax to create a cloud challenger. We were talking not the other day, well, last week, wasn't it? In fact, it was Paul that brought it up about how people like Coconut and everything else were worried for their future, weren't we? And it was something that we thought was going to be problematic for them. With everything that's happening with MTD ITSA, with everything that was going on, this seems like a way in which they've got an opportunity to ride the storm and survive. But does it mean that they're going in a new direction? What's your thoughts on it, Johann?
Yeah, it's an interesting acquisition from Simply Go Tax. So Simple Go Tax, not many accountants and bookkeepers will have heard of them. They've not been around a huge amount of time, from what I understand, and they target direct to the consumer. So they're going direct to small businesses for them to be able to do their personal tax returns and VAT returns themselves using their software. And their theory is what we're offering isn't as powerful as the tools that accountants and bookkeepers have got, but it's more powerful than what HMRC's website offers. So there's some automation, there's some sense checking and stuff. So they go direct to the small business. Coconut have been working extremely hard for the last 2 years plus to build a relationship with accountants. So there is a bit of a clash there in their approaches. Like Coconut went through accountants to get to small businesses, and Simple Tax had gone direct to the small businesses. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go in here. But yeah, it is just another case that this software company has gone bust. Well, not gone bust. They've had to make dramatic actions because MTD ITSA was delayed.
Yeah.
And before MTD ITSA was delayed, Coconut was valued at £18 million. From what we've heard and seen, there was no cash up front, and the investors of Coconut were given shares in Simple Tax, which may or may not pay out dividends in the future, depending on the business performance. So what we're saying there equivalently is actually it was pretty much worthless. And if they didn't sell to Simple Tax, they'd have gone bust. So from protecting their 400 odd accountants that are using them, although as we were saying off air, Aaron, that if those 400 accountants that are using them are anything like yourself, who have signed up as an accounting partner but haven't actually done anything with it yet, then limited value though in that 400. But they've made the right choice to protect those customers by integrating directly and being acquired by Made Simple Tax. Sorry, Simple Tax. Go Simple Tax. I'll get that right.
That's one.
So they've done right by their consumer base at Coconut. Fair play to them. But yeah, it's interesting. Like there was a post on a group I'm in on Facebook yesterday asking for feedback on where were you in readiness for MTD ITSA, because the person that hosted the group is going to be speaking about that at Cantex. And there's loads of comments saying, oh, we were ready. It felt like the industry was ready. It's like, well, if the industry was so ready, then, and everyone's blaming it on HMRC, but if the industry was so ready, then why did every single governing body write to HMRC lobbying for them to delay it? Like unfortunately, we are parts of small groups of proactive accountants and bookkeepers that are ready for this stuff, and we want to do this stuff. Like the abilities we were going to get from the APIs for MTD ITSA was phenomenal compared to what access we have today from HMRC. But the majority aren't. And I think it's very easy to become blinded by when you're in the minority. We're ready. What do you mean it's being delayed? Who's caused that? It must be HMRC. Actually, it was the majority of our industry saying they weren't ready, as well as HMRC not having a clue about what they were doing. But yeah, we've already seen, is it Tax Sheets? They literally went bust the next day, didn't they?
Yeah.
Coconut have now been acquired by Go Simple Tax for zero value, basically. So yeah, it's incredible to see how damaging a postponement of MTD is. So yeah, and then will they create a challenger? I mean, they were up against some big boys here. They've got to tackle Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, Free Agent, even NOMI or Numisma as they were called, and KPM, and established companies like that have been in the game for a while now. Have they got it right? Probably not quite yet, but they're further advanced than Coconut and Go Simple Tax are. And are they going to swing Coconut from targeting accountants to targeting small businesses directly? Or are they going to swing Go Simple Tax from targeting small businesses to targeting accountants? I don't think their tool's powerful enough to target accountants at Go Simple Tax. So, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting 12 months ahead for them. I don't think either of them are at Accountex, are they?
Oh, Coconut aren't, because Coconut they're definitely there last year, weren't they? So
I'll have a look while you continue just telling me your views on this.
Perfect. I think you're right about the ecosystem there, about us or our ecosystem, or our, not ecosystem, is it? Our, general, like what we can see when we look on socials and everything else. You're right. Majority of us were ready, but the amount of people that have come up to me, just even at the last QuickBooks Connect, I had someone, as soon as I finished my talk, I had someone bouncing over to me because I mentioned the fact that I was ICAW Small Practice Committee member, and they were like, MTD it, so what's this about? So there's definitely is going to be a large majority of people who were not ready. I think the thing that interests me about this is what I can see their potential to be, especially with this Go Simple Tax, is it reminds me, or it kind of looks like they're trying to take a Intuit approach to America. So you think about what America and how Intuit did really well was they released TurboTax, and that's still to date probably their most successful and most powerful, most profit-making solution, where it's direct to consumer. It's nothing to do with the accountants. It's all about, I suppose America's massively different, isn't it? Everyone has to do a tax return, but it's about giving the tools to do the tax return. And in America, it's almost like if you're not using TurboTax, then you're doing it wrong, sort of thing. So maybe that's where Go Simple Tax is kind of aiming for. They're looking to create their version of TurboTax in the UK, which I can see has some potential there. And I suppose with the Coconut offering, that just gives them a better way in of being able to offer a full solution. So I think it's definitely going to be something that, for me, is something to keep an eye on. And with you, though, I don't quite see how it's going to take over or be too much of a threat to accountants as such. I can't see that being an issue, unless it's something like, we could be a low-cost solution where you have access to an accountant, but you're kind of gated to the accountant somehow. I suppose there'll be some accounting firms out there that could take advantage of that, where a lot of the work and everything else is just passed over, and the accountant maybe just checks it or before it gets submitted, or is available to answer questions or something. Maybe if they bring something like that in, like a hybrid approach, potential of something there for us to look into. I think the thing that strikes me the most about this is how agile Coconut has been since they launched. They launched with this whole idea, this USP about they had their bank account, and the bank account connected to was all part of the software, and you all built it all in at the same time. That was a great idea. That didn't work out for them, and it's a shame that didn't work out. But they then pivoted to purely bookkeeping and then pushing direct to MTD ITSA. That's not worked out for them. That's been pulled under the rug. So they've pivoted again to another solution. So admiration for the fact that they really remind me of that plucky startup, don't they? I feel like it's a really good opportunity there. And you were saying there about the challenges of kind of other solutions. To me, though, really Free Agent's the only one that gives a full solution for the end consumer, isn't it? That they could log in, submit their returns, and they're done. And Paul's saying there about QBSE. I suppose it is but QBSE doesn't submit to anything. Like all QuickBooks Self-Employed, for anyone who doesn't know, all QuickBooks Self-Employed really does is give you the printout, if you like, ready to put it into your own tax return software. And until MTD ITSA becomes live, and even then, it's not going to be for everyone, is it? There is going to be no option to submit tax returns within software. So, yeah, I mean, it gives us a new tool to talk about. I definitely can see an option there of people who want to do it themselves. They will now have a better solution. So yeah, fingers crossed for them in that one. I would hope that, you know, if they get this right, that the way I always saw it was, I know Hammock is brilliant at what it does and still market leader in terms of rental properties, but there's still the smaller rental side of things. And maybe this is where something like Coconut could be quite useful, or Go Simple Tax as it is now. You know, you could have that one piece of software, submit the return at the end of the time. For most people, that's probably going to be enough, or for a vast majority of people. So, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's where they can find their little niche, is just those small, simple sets of tax returns that need doing. You know, the gig economy, that sort of idea, that's where this kind of sings out to, doesn't it? So, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's what they can bring in.
Yeah, and that neither of them are at Accountex.
Really?
So,
I mean, Simple Tax, you would have thought, should have been, if they're trying to kind of, you know, get people to understand. Coconut's been there, done that. They probably have the you know, the information to decide if it was worth it or not.
yeah.
And also, by the sounds of it, there probably was strapped for cash, wasn't it, if they were at this stage of their business? So fully understand why Coconut's not there, but Go Simple Tax, that could have been a perfect little introduction to the accountant's world. I assume they're going to be walking around, wandering around. You can only assume that, can't you? So, you know, keep your eye out for them. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, like, people like Paul who actually are users, what they think to it now. You know, is this going to be something that stops them from using it going forward, or are they going to work with them?
Because Paul said last week, didn't he was nervous about the future of Coconut, which then hours later this news article gets released. So it'd be interesting to know if Paul thinks he's happier with the future of this firm, or if he's still as nervous as he was at the end of this. But yeah, it's a tough market out there for any startups, and the problem is it's very quick and easy for accountants to change their allegiances.
Yes.
So, and you know, all it takes is a little bit of improved functionality. So for ages, you and I have been talking to Cresco, haven't we, about payment solutions and stuff. And then we've come across something called Apron, and it does everything that Cresco has been saying it's going to do already. And they've just taken a different approach to it at Apron, which means it's actually easier, and you've not got the challenges Cresco are facing with open banking. You know, like we did our first payroll payment run authorization thing with Apron last week at the end of the week.
Exactly. Yeah.
Worked a dream. And we're now rolling that out as standard service to every single payroll client. So yeah, it doesn't take much for us to shift our allegiances. Like, we'll still use Cresco for our invoicing money coming in, but our bill payments, we're still waiting for Cresco to refine and finalize that product, and it's not quite there in time. So they could be overtaken because they've not developed quick enough. So yeah, let's see what this happens with this Coconut and this Go Simple Tax, because Go Simple Tax might be the catalyst Coconut needed to deliver something, or Coconut might be the catalyst and the software that Go Simple Tax needed to really accelerate things.
Yeah, maybe because we started this initial question, didn't we, on, you know, how or what's the roadmap looking like, or what we would predict the roadmap looking like for Coconut / Go Simple Tax. Is it that Go Simple Tax will go more in the accounting world, or is it that, you know, Coconut will go down the more end consumer road? The fact they're not at Accountex probably answers that question. I know timing's not perfect, and
yeah,
you know, maybe if they had more time in the bank, they would be at Accountex. But I feel like possibly they'll be more kind of looking at the business show or something like that, that they can go direct to consumer and they can have a bigger impact there. So I think for me, and it'll be interesting to know if Coconut does exist as a name. Like, do we call it Coconut going forward, or is this
as of now? They're two separate entities and they're keeping their brands, but we all know how that goes. Give it 12, 18, 24 months, and all of a sudden something disappears and a new name comes out.
Yeah. no more greenback anymore, whatever it's called, was it? It's
Yeah,
Dex Commerce now, isn't it? So
exactly.
yeah. So
Paul's saying it's a brighter light at the end of the tunnel than he had last week, so that's a good start.
yeah, that's good. I mean, that's what you need, isn't it? You just need to have that confidence in them. I think, like we've always said, like we love the idea of these challenger softwares and stuff, but it's just difficult to bring it into our workflows. Like currently, our accounts production software connects directly to QuickBooks. You know, that's a huge time saving for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this would have obviously Simple Tax as their Simple Tax as their accounts production solution, but do you want to be training your staff on another piece of software to bring in? That's the question you've got to kind of ask yourself, isn't it, before you commit to that one? So
yeah, definitely. What else have we got to talk about today, Aaron, apart from coconut?
Well, socials have been going mad, haven't they, over this next topic? So accountancy bodies told to step up AML supervision. So anyone who doesn't know, and I hope everyone does know, especially if you listen to this and running an accountancy practice, but AML, anti-money laundering, is one of the areas in which, from an accountant's point of view, has always been a bit of a blocker, hasn't it? Like, we know that we've got to provide, or we've got to make sure that we are looking after the interests of HMRC and Companies House and other regulators out there. And as a service, or as accountants, we should be providing or looking at anti-money laundering solutions to make sure that people who basically say who they are or who they say they are, we're supposed to be running tests and looking at and doing reviews and everything else to make sure that we're compliant, to make sure that we are making, looking out for any money laundering issues that may arise with our clients. But the big news here is that they want us to do even more efforts than we already are. And I don't know about you, but it already feels like we're doing quite a lot. But I think, again, this is the whole ecosystem issue, isn't it? This our bubble, should I say? I think in our bubble, yes, we do quite a lot because we are told to, aren't we? And, we have great software like Client Engager, like Accounting Manager, like all the others out there who really help us provide a watertight anti-money laundering solution where, we can do credit checks at a push of a button, or what do you call it, checks, identity checks at a push of a button. Yeah. We can be pushed to do the rest of our anti-money laundering checks as well. But I think possibly on the whole scheme of things, maybe there's a lot of accountants out there who aren't doing enough. So my cynical approach, or at least my hope of this story, is that this is about trying to level the playing field so that everyone's doing the same amount of work, and it's guaranteed that that's the amount of work, and there's a bare minimum that we all have to pass, and not just some of us are passing it and others aren't. But by the sound of it and looking through socials, it looks like there's going to be even more work involved for everyone to do. What do you think to this one? I
question whether we're the soft underbelly of AML. Like, if you look at the banks, etc., and what they do for AML checks and all of that stuff, I feel they do the very bare minimum. And then, NatWest, they were in the news within the last 12 months with a huge fine because they'd not spotted someone laundering money through them, basically, which was bin bags of notes being deposited regularly. Yet we're being governed and policed to a certain level, and the question you've got to make is the governance and administration a overburden for someone's tax return that we do once a year and may not ever do again, when they've only got an employment and maybe a gig economy style income, or a side hustle, as they like to call it. How many checks and how much time can we spend on AML and the onboarding of someone before actually that once a year tax return loses all profitability? The burden kind of makes you feel, actually, sometimes you question whether it's worth taking on a client, or do you take the client on because you're happy in your head that they're fine for AML and you don't complete the checks, and then you're at risk of being caught out for that. But then you've got other issues where, people are saying, well, we report stuff and never hear anything back. And it's like, yeah, that it does kind of feel like you're reporting into a black hole at times. And yeah, it's a tough one, but they're very quick to come round and fine and penalise us and hit us with a stick instead of train and educators. And governing bodies aren't prepared to put their neck on the line and say what is right and what is wrong. They all just go refer to the guidelines. And it's like, well, the guidelines are written by lawyers for the government. They're all in double Dutch. What does any of it actually mean? So, yeah, it's interesting. Literally last week, we concluded a review of our AML policies and risk assessments. We actually brought in an external consultant to do that for us because none of our team in-house are AML experts.
Yeah.
So we've brought someone in. She has helped us rewrite our policy and our risk assessments. She's reviewed our processes and she's happy with those. We just need to make sure that whilst we're doing right now and best in class, we know in the past we've not been as hot on AML as we are today. So we're now having to backtrack and make sure everyone's brought up to the same level for records keeping and stuff of IDs and stuff like that. But it's a huge task, huge investment of time and wages is going into that. And even onboarding now, even with our suite of tools, it still takes considerable amount of time. So, we pull in the data from Companies House into Client Engager. So we're happy that that data is a true source of truth. We then do ID checks and AML checks through Zama, which is linked to Client Engager. We then do risk assessments on Zama. And then we go an extra step further and we do a source of funds check using Armalytics so that we know where the money's coming in and out for the last 2 years for every bank account with a quick, really easy report that summarizes all that information for us. But yeah, it's a challenge. And we feel like we're probably doing more than most. And we're still not 100% confident with it. So yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't matter how good you think you are, HMRC or your governing body will still find something to pick fault at. You're never going to pass with 100% flying colours.
Yeah. And you got to think, like, at the end of the day, we're trying to find criminals and they're not going to make it easy for us, are they? Like, the whole point is that they are layering money and they're doing every other element of it that makes it really difficult for us to find. So, yes, we need to put as much best practice in as possible. Yes, we need to make sure our policies are up to date. And yes, we need to train our staff to be vigilant and everything else. But it's not, we're not detectives. Like, we're accountants. We can do the best we can. And what you're saying there is, way more than what is actually required of us at this point in time, but probably is what we're going to be expected to do going forward. That's probably where this is going to come into play. The problem is, as you said, now it just becomes a blocker, doesn't it? Like, I don't know about you, but we've always wanted to have a seamless way of being able to get people to come in, like get people to join our practice, and have an online portal where they could just sign up now and everything else. That's the dream, right? Like, let's take away blockers. Let's make it easy for us to provide a service to clients, but it's always going to be pinned back by AML. One of the issues that Cresco's having is AML, isn't it? Like, every time we have an innovation in the industry, AML rears its ugly head and becomes a difficult thing for us to fix, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'll always remember talking to some of my IFA friends and colleagues and referrals and everything else that we've got in the industry, and all they ever talk about is that it could take them, half an hour to actually complete the work for someone, but it takes them 4 hours to do the AML and everything else and all the compliance checks. That's what's going to happen to us, isn't it? And that's where we're going to get into is, providing the work's going to be quite straightforward going forward. But if there's more onerous and complicated steps for us to take, then it's just going to mean that our fees and everything else are going to have to go through the roof just to stay compliant, and that doesn't seem right, especially when, you know, majority of the time we've got a nice squeaky clean client just trying to get by. And again, you got these bad apples and these bad eggs that we're supposed to be vigilant for, and we want to catch. Like, don't get me wrong, like we want to it'd be great to say that we've helped prevent this money laundering exploit or whatever it is. That's, you know, that'd be a good thing, but at what cost? I think that's where it's going to be difficult, isn't it? So yeah, it's a tricky one, and it's rightly so that social media has gone absolutely mad for it, because it's another one of those, well, you know, what more can we do sort of thing, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. It's governance is always an ongoing challenge for us. How we deal with it, you know, I think we have to accept there's a certain amount of cost and time involved. But the more onerous it gets, the harder it is the higher the barrier of entry to our industry is. So, you know, the amount of bookkeepers and accountants that I speak to that I started out like 6 to 12 months ago and don't do any AML because they weren't aware of it. They're not registered with anyone. There's no education about it, as it were.
Yeah.
Like, you know, yet they're the ones that the government needs to be finding, not the ones of us that are registered and trying to do our best, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's tricky, isn't it? And like you said, there's no education, and a lot of people that I've come across, they think that just doing an identity check is enough. Like, again, you have a shiny button, don't you? And you go and press the shiny button on your practice management solution. They think that's it, you're done. You know, it's come back with a you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, or whatever it's going to be, and everything's done. But you know, when you really look into it, like you've spent the time, you've spent the money on looking at resources and everything else, and when you really look into it, the annual review, you know, that alone is such a time consuming aspect. And it's not a simple approach. It's not just a let's press a button and hope for the best. It's actually forms to fill in and complete, and you know, and like Paul's just said there, you know, do you do it for every single client type? Well, you've got to, if you follow the rules and regulations. There's no get out of jail for this, is there? It's
No.
Apparently we've got to be checking every client that comes through the door. So, you know, when you add all that together, it becomes really, really tricky. And yeah, as Kimberly says, it's such a time-consuming activity. Days to making sure you're MLRO compliant at this point in time. And I must admit, every time that you come to do your annual practice certificate, and you go through doing your compliance for that, MLRO is always that one where you just, you know, you almost get sweaty under the collar. Like, am I doing enough? And you know, we're told we're doing enough, and we hope we're doing enough, but that's always that fear factor of, you know, I'm committing to myself here that I am doing enough and I can't do any more. But that becomes really, really difficult, doesn't it, to make sure it's right going forward. So yeah, let's hope. I mean, is there any room in the industry to make it easier for us? Is there a bit of fancy tech that can come along and just solve this for us, or what's your opinion on it?
There's tech out there already that will smoothen the process, shall we say?
Yeah. But
so your practice management tool, being able to upload ID checks to that, or something you partnered with, and to run checks on those ID documents, etc. You know, like Zama, all I do is send an email. A client fills out the information Zama asks for and uploads an image of their passport, their driving license, and copies of their bills. And that's it. From the client's point of view, that's it. It's done.
Yeah.
So Zama's very good at making the client experience much, much slicker. But if you're taking over a client whose accountant didn't do AML beforehand, to that client's knowledge, or the client comes and says, why are you doing AML checks? You have to educate them in the thought that this is financial due diligence. This is, you know, I'm involved in your finances like your bank is. They've got to check you. I've got to check you. So yeah, there is technology out there that slickens the client experience in the form of Zama. There is technology out there in the form of Armalytics that gives me and my team confidence that we have the best analytics of the financial data to say we understand this client's financial activity. But it all comes at a cost, financial cost. That it's only in the last couple of months I've learned that there are consultants out there who will come in and write your risk assessments and your policies for you over a series of meetings to help you have confidence that you meet regulations and you've got a completely tailored policy to your company. A lot of people have been caught out by using templates and being told by governing bodies and HMRC the templates, it is a template. You've not personalized it enough to your business.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's people and systems and softwares out there to help, but ultimately it still boils down to the firm owner or the money laundering regulating officer, or whatever we're calling them, that it's their responsibility to get this right.
Yeah. But again, like back to the original point of software helping, and it just seems like it's muddied water. Like, yes, it's great that you can send out a link, but that link is still separate to your sign up link. And then there's a direct debit link. And before you know it, you can send an email out to a client to sign up and they've got 82 steps to complete before you can file that one tax return. Okay. Yeah. It's not 82, but you know what I mean? It's
literally a few weeks ago, we revised our whole onboarding process because I'd got all these steps, do this, do that, do this.
Exactly.
And my team were like, right, let's be efficient, boof, boof, boof. And suddenly clients getting overwhelmed by loads of emails. So we've now had to break it down. I've gone, right, no, we're going to have day one. This is your checklist for day one. Right. Day two, here's your checklist for day two. And I've been really careful in those checklists that we're getting the information we need quick enough, but we're trying to limit it to one, maybe two emails a day from us to the client.
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise they get overwhelmed and it gets lost in amongst everything else.
Your standard client, that's absolutely fine. But what if it's they've got their tax return due in 2 days' time?
Exactly.
Again, it's a blocker, and that's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the problem we have. One benefit that could come from this, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, is if we did go down this standardized process, every account has to follow this particular steps and particular way, and we all have to go through the same rigmarole to keep it all, quote unquote, fair, or at least we're all being compliant. Do you think then that gives us the opportunity that when we do, your professional clearance, or you're talking to another accountant maybe to take over a client, do you think that opens up the door that we could then pass over and say, look, this is the AML work I've done to date, over to you? Is that something is that a pipe dream, or do you think that's something that we could aim for?
I think that's a pipe dream to a certain. I'm fairly sure the legislation basically says, doesn't matter who's done AML checks before you, it's your responsibility.
But that's now, isn't it? I'm thinking.
So you're thinking that could we change the legislation?
Yeah.
I think the problem is you'd then have to legislate that everyone uses a certain tool or a tool that's certified to a certain level. We can't get MTD ITSA right at HMRC.
Yeah.
Can we then do all of that? Probably not. And it still doesn't account for this proportion of people who are flying under the radar as accountants and bookkeepers, little sole traders. They've maybe got, 4 or 5 local businesses in their little village up in the Highlands of Scotland, a couple of farmers. They're completely unaware of what AML is and what they have to do. And HMRC are never going to catch them, because HMRC and all the governing bodies are just governing bodies aren't looking for people that aren't governed by them. They're just looking and punishing those that are governed by them. So that then falls into HMRC's remit. HMRC aren't spending time going through social medias, working out who's doing what AMLable tasks and services, and whether those people are then registered with anyone or not for AML, because there's no one central database. Every governing body's got their own database, which isn't publicly available. And then HMRC have got a register for all of theirs, which is publicly available. So, yeah, I think we're very far off anything like that concept of transferring of transferable data. But yeah, it'd be a nice idea, but I don't think the government will ever legislate that.
Shame, isn't it? Because we try and find some bits of positivity out of it, but yeah, maybe we're asking for too much. Okay, so let's move topics and change gears slightly then. So we found a really interesting topic on Accounting Web. So shout out to Accounting Web themselves. Attachments from bank feed. So there was a user talking about how do any other software packages collect attachments from bank feeds? So talking about changing the game and letting tech help us make things even simplified. It goes on to say how Free Agent, it was interesting to see, now allow the idea that Metal, so Metal being their challenger bank, so NatWest challenger bank, should I say, the idea to automatically add it to bank feed transactions. So the PDF copy of the bank feed, you don't have to go request it from a client, automatically going to be brought into Free Agent when using Metal. And they go on to say how useful this is. It's a good trigger. And they checked Xero and QuickBooks, but neither appears to have such a capability. Well, what do you think to that then, Johann? Is that true or false? Do you want to break the little bubble now?
I call bullshit. So yeah, look, we know Free Agent's always had great links to NatWest, RBS, and Metal bank feeds, and they can.
It's useful when you're owned by them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really useful when you're owned by them. It's really helpful. But my understanding is the same functionality is available from Wise to Xero.
Yes.
And we were talking 3 or 4 months ago about the fact that this feature is being released gradually, soft launching in QuickBooks, because we'd already seen it through. I'd seen an example from Metro. I think you'd seen a few different examples where you go to the reconciliation page, which I grant you it's a page Xero don't have, but in QuickBooks, you go to the reconciliation page, you can put in the, and it will try and talk to the bank and pull last month's bank statement so we can get the totals and work out if it reconciles automatically.
Yeah, that's
great. So yes, other tools are developing this. QuickBooks spoke about it, 4 years ago? Originally, that this is what they wanted to do. This was the goal of open banking. I think all softwares realized this is a great idea, but actually it's down to the banks to put this information on their API, and that is not what the banks have done. The banks are inconsistent at best with this. So yeah, if it was available across all banks, yes, it'd be great, but it's not. I mean, there are tools out there to get this information for you. So you've got Analytics again, Stream Connect. Like if you want this functionality, you can pull this stuff in. That's not an issue. But it's other banks, other software providers are doing this in some form or another, but it is limited by the banks that have the functionality and which ones don't.
Yeah. I mean, my question is, does Xero need it? Because they don't let you reconcile.
They've not got a tool to reconcile it against, have they?
So why bother? Yeah.
We don't believe in reconciliation.
And I have noticed John Toon got involved in the comments there. So yeah, hopefully you didn't hear that bit. But yeah, at the end of the day, look, I think this is something that we have been promised for a long time. This was our carrot at the end of the, like you said, the open banking malar, wasn't it? Like, open banking's come in. We're gonna have to change the way that we do things. In fairness, open banking was a good step. It was the right direction. It was, let's stop people just connecting to banks any old way. Let's make sure they all connect the right way. We're happy with that. That's good. But it did cause us some, again, blockers. It was, we had to go and ask our client to reconnect it every 90 days. We had to do, some, I don't know if you remember back in the very early days, but some of them, they had to actually take a PDF document, print it off, write a load of information on, send it to a bank, and in 4 to 5 years, it was probably going to get connected. I've got some still waiting to be connected at this point in time. Lloyd's.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the idea was that, we were standardizing the process, and in return for that, we were going to get this wonderful bank connecting option. And, when it does work, it is absolutely brilliant. And it just makes sense, doesn't it? if we've already got the transactions coming in, let's have that PDF document just to prove it that goes there. Kirsty says, I like how QuickBooks, if you have to undo a bank reconciliation, then you can redo it and the attachment stays there to put itself back there. Yeah, and that's a great point. So QuickBooks do give you the option to actually upload, or if you have the document already to hand, you can actually attach it to the reconciliation as that added proof that it's all done and dusted. So yeah, the technology's there. I know QuickBooks have been working on it a long time. I may have even announced it at QuickBooks Connect by accident during my speech, which unfortunately Joe Lawn picked up on and then spoke about it on the ending thing and told it to everyone there as well. So yeah, I may have broke a few NDAs at that one inadvertently, but that's just the way things are. But yeah, it's going to be a better solution around when it comes out, isn't it? And I think it, even just the excitement we had in that one room of people being excited for it, this is what we're looking for, isn't it, going forward? So yeah, fingers crossed. Kirsty goes on to say you can do bank rec in Xero, but agree it's not exciting with a tick and a semi lock. If you publish, then it's kind of similar. Load bank statements to files, nowhere near as good. Yeah, I think my problem with Xero's bank reconciliation is it's not a straightforward, is it? It does, well, you don't get that it is reconciled. It is this whole almost workaround to get to a reconciled position, isn't it? So
yeah.
But Xero will do what Xero do. Sage, though, they're very quiet on this one, aren't they? That's not seems to be functionality that you would have thought with auto entry and everything else, there would be something there that they could lean on. I suppose one thing auto entry does have, which is useful, is that whole upload from PDF, don't it? If you have a PDF bank statement, you can bring it in, convert it to a bank statement and kind of reconcile automatically that way. So I suppose that's really where they're coming from, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right, then. So one of our final topics of the day. What time are we on? Yeah, we've just got enough time for this one, haven't we? So let's talk about getting yourself qualified with software. So we've
partnerships.
Yeah. So people out there must be aware of the fact that, if you're going to go with Xero, then what's their qualification called? It's got some sort of a name to it, hasn't it? What's it called? They're Xero Pro Advisor or Xero Advisor or something, and you can go
so you're a Xero certified advisor or something.
That rings a bell, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then you go through your tiers of membership through the number of licenses you have.
That's the one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And QuickBooks, you have your Pro Advisor status. You can be core or you could be advanced.
And then you go through your membership status from there with the amount of points you have.
Exactly. Sage, I believe they have their one qualification, nice and straightforward, nice and simple. Free Agent got one, I can't remember. Do they have like a
Free Agent have certifications available, and then their membership status of bronze, silver, gold, and I want to say platinum.
Yep, that does ring a bell now, actually, now thinking about it. Yeah. So really nice and straightforward. You've got that tiered approach, yeah? So you kind of start at the bottom.
Normally 3 or 4 tiers maximum.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And, give us something in return for it. Excuse me. There's, we get a nice little badge. We get some opportunity to bring it. We love it. Yeah. Now let's look at what Nomi's approach to this is. So we spoke about I still can't get the name. Get my head around the name of it. So Nomisma, who is now rebranded as Nomi, have their own unique approach on it. So we're going to share screen now and have a look at this one. So yeah, as you can see here, they have not 1, not 2, not 3, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that? No, 11, isn't it? No, 10. I was right first
10.
time. 10 different stages of qualification.
Well, is it qualification or is it just partnership levels?
Partnership levels, qualification. Yeah, they are same, aren't they? But yeah, 10 different accreditations, let's call it that way, to apply with them. So, I mean, what do you think to that? Do you want to be a bronze partner all the way to a diamond partner? Well, what gets me excited? What's an onyx partner? Like, where's that? They really were struggling.
What they've done here is they've pretty much covered every rock type on the geographical elements list. that this, yeah, it's.
I mean, it's saying something that the gold partner is
Fourth.
so far down the pecking order. You might as well not bother if you're just a gold partner. Do you know what I mean? You've got to...
Silver lining to it. I'm guessing you can progress through it quite quickly to more middle levels, like gold, platinum type thing. But yeah, it's a bit overkill, isn't it?
bit OTT. Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
well, can you just turn around to a client and go, yeah, that's fine. We use NOMI. We're actually Onyx level.
and they're like, oh, well, I only work with Emerald and above.
Yeah, hang on. Is Onyx better or worse than gold?
I mean, we love a bit of education. We love thinking, and I've heard it with with client engager. That's next on the agenda, isn't it? To bring out 11 different partner levels.
We were going to go for 20. We didn't think. No, when we aren't going to be doing partnership levels. Primarily, I mean, you know what? Some of the most valuable clients of our users of ours are actually those with smaller firms and smaller user numbers.
Yeah,
they give us better, more constructive feedback, etc. The bigger firms come in, they swing around, going, "We're the big I am. Do this, do that," and then, yeah, I just don't see the point of it to a certain degree. Like, yes, I want to prove that the tool that I'm using in the case of QuickBooks or Xero or Free Agent, me and my team know what we're talking about with that. So we are all booked onto our recertifications for this week for QuickBooks. And I tell all our clients that my team are certified to use QuickBooks, like they have gone through the training and the assessment. None of my clients care whether I am bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, or whatever. I think I'm an elite pro advisor, and no one cares. They care about as much about that as they do about you having a certificate above your wall saying you're a chartered or certified accountant. Like, it has no value to that client whatsoever. So yeah, that looks like a lot of effort and time went into planning 10 stages of partnership. And I'm not sure it's going to generate enough FOMO and excitement to really want anyone to strive to push up the goals.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I'd be interested to see who's the first diamond partnered NOMI accountant out there. That'll be something to talk about. But yeah, it scares me. Like, because just so people are aware, I'm I was involved in and still am involved in recertification with QuickBooks this year, and we'll go on to talk about that in a minute. But the amount of work involved just to get recertification ready, which is just a two-tier approach, isn't it? Core and advanced. Just getting all of the stuff involved in that, getting that ready and getting that out the door. And like Kirsty says, they're ready for the training that's only tomorrow, that's ready to rock and roll. That was a lot of work involved. This, I mean, unless they've got a full-time team working on that one, that's a big ask for them, isn't it? That's that's a huge undertaking to get that ready.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not convinced it is related to any form of certification and training. I think it's just
really?
number of clients on there. It's purely the partnership status. So yeah, I'm not convinced at all. But yeah, I'm looking forward to recertification though. I'm just working out which bus I'm going to be sat on to recertify this year. Or have you made it so tough that I can't just get away with doing it on the bus this year?
I'm not allowed to comment until the release next week. Again, my questions I put through, a lot of them weren't allowed through. So that's too tough, that one. So...
In which case, I'll sit on the bus and do it like last year.
Yeah, it is going to be all revealed tomorrow. Also, relating to that as well, and a bit of a plug, we are going live on Thursday, aren't we, Johann? We're hoping for a special on a particular software launch or a feature launch within QuickBooks Online. No prizes for guessing which one we were hoping was launched at that time, but yeah, that's all we're allowed to say. But no, instead, it's going to be a special on QuickBooks Labs on Thursday about recertification and revenue recognition as well. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that. And we will talk more about recertification when we're allowed to, when everything's all up and running and ready to go. So it'd be great to see you there. Was it 4:30? I think we agreed time on the Thursday.
I think so. Yeah, on May the 4th.
Is that May the 4th
Star Wars Day? With you.
So we'll be and hopefully everyone who has recertified, come along, tell us and tell us your stories of how that was on Thursday itself. So yeah, and revenue recognition is actually pretty cool as well. So it'd be good to kind of show how that's working as intended. And that's about it for today, isn't it? I think we've done that. Do you want to give a big shout out and talk about what actually got released at Client Engager? Well, we've got a few more minutes left. I mean, have we got enough time?
I do feel like I'm going to have to make a feature film for this, but so on Friday night we released our biggest update yet. Basically, Client Engager's had a bit of a facelift in the form of brand new Kanban board, which is just brighter, clearer, and more editable, so that you can tailor that Kanban view to suit what information you want to see at the top level. Brand new dashboard, so it's cleaner and easier to use, with a notepad on touch. You know what? We've put so much effort into building all these new features and reskinning everything. Most people were just excited that we've given them a little notes area on the dashboard to type into, and they can use emojis. Like, come on, my poor developer is sat there crying in the corner. He's put all this effort into email integration, and everyone's just talking about the notepad. But yeah, so we've got new dashboard, new Kanban board, and we've launched the email integration with Microsoft 365, which it is fairly phenomenal, if I do say so myself. You can manage all your emails in the email inbox in Client Engager as if you were in Outlook. You can turn an email into a task. When you're in your emails, you can see how many different tasks are assigned to that one email. So you could create multiple tasks out of one email if you wanted to. You can set multiple deadlines, and it will show you how many deadlines of those are overdue, due very soon, due soon, and okay. You can click into that task from that email screen and go into the deadline screen, and you can click on the email that's linked to that task and reply to that email from there as well. So it's all very circular and fantastic. It's going to take a long video to demo it all to its full strengths. But yeah, and I'm now going to have to go and redo every single Client Engager video because the dashboard and Kanban make no sense anymore in the old videos. So no one knows what they were looking at. But hey, it's a bank holiday Monday. What else could I want to do on a bank holiday Monday than refilm 40 odd videos?
Sounds like perfection to me. It sounds like a good use of your bank holiday time. So yeah, no, I must admit, from all the feedback that we've seen, I've had a quick play around. It's looking good. It's looking like what's nice to see is you're listening to what people want, isn't it? And I know you've got a good roadmap coming up as well. So yeah, it should be good times up by all.
Yeah, our roadmap's already set to August. And on Friday night, we also launched the poll in our Facebook group for our users to then be able to say, this is what we want you to prioritize for September to November.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting areas that we think, oh, they're going to want this, they're going to want that. And then you look at it and what people are voting for. It's like, oh, okay, that's okay, but that's fine if that's what you want, but it's not what we thought you want. And I think that just shows the importance of listening to your users, because a lot of accounting practice management tools out there assume they know what their users want. And we listen to our users a lot, and we're still being proven wrong on a daily basis. So if we're being proven wrong, everyone else is probably going to be proven wrong if they took the time to survey their users.
Definitely. 100%. Well, that's a wrap. I mean, bank holiday Monday, all done and dusted. Another show under the belt. A few kind of bits of in fact, let's talk about people just commenting first of all. Paul says more people know about it better in reference to bank feed. So yeah, completely agree.
Yep.
Paul's also got his free badges, so glad to see that one. You got yours as well, haven't you?
Got all
Johann?
my free badges for the Pro Advisor skills that they did for QuickBooks. Yeah.
Absolutely loving those badges. What we need to figure out is how to make them in physical form. I think that's the next one. Reference to Nomi's different partner system with sounds like video game reward system. Completely agree. Pokemon fan, Aaron. So yep, you're right there with the badges. That's how it's bringing from there. Great little call out to the fact that we had cool friends, or we have cool friends. Not have, we have cool friends was just released. So if you haven't seen it, Sam and Sam is now on your podcast service of choice or on your social channels. And yeah, a little sneak peek there of new title from Sam and Sam, Ant and Dec. So apparently we're the Ant and Dec of the accounting world, which 100% sure that one. So yeah. And then yeah, Sarah says that your client engager videos are greatly appreciated. We've just had a question come through. If you don't mind, can you pass that question over to QuickBooks Labs, and we'll talk about it there on the on Thursday night. Wonderful. I'll take a note of it as well. Brilliant. And I think with that, then we are done for today. We've gone our hour. We're already over the hour mark as we should be. So remember, our podcast goes live on a Wednesday at early in the morning. Not only will our podcast go live, but also recertification will go live as well with QuickBooks. So you've got two things to look forward to Wednesday today. Look at that. That's buy one, get one free. Bog off.
QuickBooks recertification, is it going live at a certain time? I just need to time my buses.
I can't say.
I think last year it was meant to go live at like 9 o'clock and it didn't go live till like 10:30, and there was chaos.
There was fuming people were, because remember the first 200, I think it is this year.
Exactly. I want the gift pack.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most important thing, isn't it? So don't forget to look out for them ones. I'm at actually HQ this week as well. I'm going down to QuickBooks, doing a bit of video in, so that'll be fun. What about you, Johann? Anything exciting other than the client engager stuff before we wrap it up?
Not this week. Just cracking on this week so I can have 4 days out of the office next week for Accountex.
Of course, Accountex is the week after. I almost forgot about that. So yeah. We'll be looking forward to that one. With that, then, that is a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Thank you, everyone, for talking and commenting and everything else. And we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.
Thank you.